They thought they could stop you. They thought their schemes, their whispers, their low-effort attacks could shake you. But here you are, thriving, untouchable, rising like a force they will never understand. The truth is, they were never a match for you. Their entire existence revolves around your every move, while you're too busy winning to even notice their desperation. Every attempt they make to derail you only fuels your momentum. Every trick they pull, every burner account they create, every bitter word they type, none of it matters, because no matter how hard they try, they can't outthink destiny, and they sure as hell can't outwork you. And here's what really stings for them. While they drown in their own envy, you are stepping into a level they could never reach. They tried digital warfare, but you're built different. They thought they could manipulate the algorithm, but your presence can't be controlled. They thought their little games mattered, but the universe already chose its favorite. So let them watch, let them lurk, let them refresh your page with shaking hands and a sinking heart. The same way a guard dog smells fear, you can sense their failure before they even know it's happening. They wanted to play mind games, but they forgot who they were dealing with. Now let's get into it. Lurking behind faceless accounts, they spewed their malice into the unseen, believing their actions would remain unnoticed, convinced that the weight of their intentions would drag you down. But their ignorance was their first mistake. What they failed to grasp is that energy, once unleashed, does not simply vanish. It follows the currents of the unseen, and those currents do not bend for feeble hands. Their venom did not seep into your foundation. Their shadows never found a place to linger in your light. The very forces they sought to control rejected their grasp, twisting their own intentions into a snare. Their own spell recoiled before it even touched you, as if the air itself refused to carry its weight. What they thought was a whisper of destruction turned into an echo that now circles back, sharpening its teeth against the very hands that released it. They imagined they had set a trap, one carefully designed to consume you. But instead, they stepped into a maze of their own making, where every path led them deeper into the darkness they summoned. The mechanisms they manipulated, the forces they sought to command, now shift beyond their reach. Paranoia grips their mind as the very shadows they conjured close in on them. What was once an illusion of power dissolves into chaos, their own thoughts unraveling like a thread pulled too tight. The weight they tried to place upon you has become their own burden, pressing into them with an unrelenting force. What they intended as a snare has become an inescapable cycle, trapping them in the energy they set loose. For they have sown the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. Hosea 8:7. You don't get to build an empire on deception and expect it to stand. You don't get to plant seeds of destruction and expect a harvest of peace. That's not how this works. They thought they were writing the story, thought they were in control. They spoke with confidence, moved with certainty, convinced that their words could shape reality itself. But the problem with lies is that they don't have roots. You can build a house out of smoke, but the wind will always come. And now the storm has arrived. The very influence they fought so hard to secure is slipping through their fingers. Their once loyal supporters are growing distant, their words falling flat, their schemes unraveling faster than they can repair them. They check their notifications, waiting for the validation that once fueled them, but it's not coming. The silence is getting louder. They thought erasing you would elevate them. They thought burying your name would make theirs shine brighter. But the universe does not reward the work of bitter hands. Instead of building their own, they were too busy trying to tear you down. And now, they have nothing left. Their presence, once undeniable, is now fading like a shadow at noon. Their words, once sharp enough to cut, now land with a dull thud, unnoticed, unimportant. The people who once entertained their lies are moving on, realizing that the foundation was always hollow. And here's the part they never saw coming. They are the architects of their own downfall. See, they thought the silence was a victory. They thought moving in the dark would protect them. But the unseen does not forget. Every secret move, every hidden agenda, every whispered scheme, it's all coming back, piece by piece, thread by thread, pulling them deeper into the mess they created. They feel it now. The pressure, the weight, the consequences creeping in like a tide they can't outrun. Their own game has turned against them, and there's no reset button, no way to undo what has already begun. And the best part? You didn't have to lift a finger. You just kept walking, kept rising, kept showing up while they dug themselves into a pit too deep to escape. Because what they sowed, they are now forced to reap. And you are still standing. You are still thriving. And now they are left with nothing but the ruins of their own making. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Galatians 6:7. The harvest always comes. You don't get to plant poison and expect a garden. You don't get to throw stones and pray they don't come back down. See, they thought they were clever, thought they were untouchable, thought their whispers in the dark could never be traced back to them. But the law is written in the unseen, and what you send out, you will face again. It started small, just a flicker, just a crack in the foundation. A few familiar words here, a repeated phrase there. At first, it was nothing worth noticing. But patterns always reveal the truth. What they tried to scatter in secret is now coming back to them in broad daylight. The whispers have grown into voices, and those voices have turned into undeniable proof. They thought they were ghosts in the machine, shadows slipping between screens. But now, the light has found them. The ground beneath them is shifting, unstable, fragile. The same tricks that once gave them power have become the chains locking them in place. The same tools they used to deceive have become the very weapons cutting them down. They thought they could manipulate perception, twist narratives, make you the villain in their little story. But now the audience is seeing the truth. And the worst part? They can't stop it. Every screen refresh brings another revelation. Every message sent is another nail in their own coffin. It doesn't matter how many names they hide behind, how many accounts they switch between. The weight of their own actions is pressing down on them, and they can feel it. The eyes are on them now. The people they used to control are waking up. The illusion is breaking. The kingdom they built on deception is crumbling, and the walls are closing in. They played a game they were never meant to win. They thought they could control the tide, but the flood is already here. And you didn't have to lift a finger. You just stood firm. And now they are left standing in the ruins of their own making. Let them scramble. Let them panic. Let them try to rewrite the past. It's too late. The story has already been written. What they never anticipated was the force set into motion the moment they unleashed their malice. They believed their words, their schemes, their intentions would drift unchecked, that the unseen would remain indifferent. But the unseen does not ignore, nor does it forget. The air itself has shifted. The tides have turned, and though they cannot see it, they feel it, a force they cannot name pressing against them. dissolving their influence, rendering their weapons useless. Every effort to bend reality in their favor has been countered, not by hands, but by something greater, something far beyond their reach. The intentions they hurled outward never found their target, never took root, never gained momentum. Instead, the weight of their own actions is pressing back, forcing them to confront what they refuse to acknowledge: that the energy they put forth does not vanish, it returns. The storm they summoned does not rage where they intended. It turns, gathering force, stripping away every illusion they once relied upon. There is no retaliation needed, no interference required. The battle was lost the moment they believed they had control. The force they dismissed, the one they never accounted for, has already moved. And in its wake, there is nothing left for them to grasp, nothing but the echo of their own undoing. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Exodus 15:3. You can hear it in the air, a storm they never saw coming, a force they thought they could control, now moving against them. See, they thought they were the architects, thought they were the ones pulling the strings. But God don't let the wicked dance forever. There's always a moment when the music stops, and right now, that moment is here. They played their hand, thinking they held the power, thinking they could rearrange the pieces of your life like they were playing some grand game of chess. But they forgot who set the board. The very strategy they relied on has turned into their own trap. Every thread they wove, every scheme they set in motion, every word they whispered in secret, it's all folding in on them, like a house built on sinking sand. They feel it now, that sudden tightness in their chest, that heaviness they can't explain. They refresh their screens, they check their messages, but no answer comes. The very same darkness they once sent out has circled back, not because you fought, but because the battle was never yours to fight. See, they didn't just want to slow you down, they wanted to bury you. They wanted to watch you fall so they could feel taller. They wanted the world to forget your name, erase your influence, strip you of everything meant for you. They thought that if they pulled enough strings, you'd just disappear. But what they didn't realize is that you are not sustained by human hands. They called on shadows, but the light found them first. And now, the same tactics they used are collapsing beneath them. The platforms they controlled are turning against them. The people they once manipulated are waking up. The same words they used to twist reality are being repeated back to them. But this time, they don't have the upper hand. They are scrambling, searching for an escape, but there's nowhere left to hide. Because the tide has turned, and let me tell you, when God moves, nothing stands in his way. So let them panic. Let them sit in that silence, in that wait, in that realization that everything they sent out is now pressing back against them. Let them feel what it's like to lose the very control they once abused. And you don't have to do a thing. The story was never theirs to write, and the ending, it was never in their favor. For a time, the resistance was real. The doors that once opened with ease became barriers. The momentum that carried you forward suddenly felt like a battle against an invisible current. It was calculated, deliberate. They did not simply want to block your path, they wanted you to walk away from it entirely. The setbacks were not random. They were designed to wear you down, to break your will, to make you believe that something beyond your control was closing in. They understood that the mind is the battlefield, and fear is the most potent weapon. If they could make you question your purpose, they could make you falter. If they could make you doubt your strength, they could make you surrender. But they did not account for endurance. They did not consider what happens when pressure does not crush, but refines. They underestimated the weight of resilience. Their greatest miscalculation was assuming that the obstacles would weaken you when, in reality, they only solidified your foundation. Now, the very force they relied on is working against them. The mechanisms they once controlled are malfunctioning. The structures they built to contain you are collapsing from within. What they put into motion cannot be undone. And now, it is they who are caught in the storm. They believed they were invincible, but they were merely playing a game they never truly understood. And now, it is over. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. They built the trap, set the bait, and waited. They whispered, plotted, and planned. They threw every dart, lit every fire, and yet, here you are, standing tall, untouched, thriving in a way they cannot understand. See, they thought they could control the outcome. They believed if they pulled the right strings, blocked the right doors, and manipulated the right people, they could make you disappear. But they didn't account for one thing. You were never walking this road alone. When God ordains your rise, no man can stop it. Now the weight of their own choices is pressing down on them. The realization is creeping in. Everything they set in motion has turned on them. They can't sleep. They can't focus. They check in over and over again, searching for some sign that their plans had even the smallest effect. But what do they find? More people speaking your name, more doors opening for you, more favor, more blessings, more acceleration. And them? They're stuck. Their schemes were supposed to break you, yet all they did was make you stronger. The pressure was supposed to crush you, but instead, it forged you into something unshakable. They pulled every trick, but you were never playing their game. They thought they had power, but now they're watching as their influence unravels before their very eyes. They see it happening in real time, and it's driving them mad. The same people they once manipulated are waking up, turning away, questioning everything. The same doors they slammed shut on you have been ripped open wider than ever before. The same curses they hurled at you have boomeranged right back to them. Because here's what they don't understand. You don't fight battles the way they do. They use deception, manipulation, bitterness. You used patience, faith, and resilience. They spent months, even years, trying to sabotage you, but all they did was speed up the process of your transformation. And now, it's too late for them. The frustration is boiling over. The confusion is turning into panic. They refresh the screen, hoping to see your downfall, only to watch you rise even higher. They lost before they even began, because they never had the authority to touch what was never theirs to control. And that's what haunts them the most. Therefore, whoever hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. Matthew 7:24-26. You can build the tallest house in the city, but if the foundation is sand, the storm will always come to collect. And that storm is here now. They thought they were untouchable, thought they were the architects of reality itself. They manipulated, twisted, and controlled, building their power not on truth, but on deception. And for a while, it worked. The walls held. The illusion stood tall. But you cannot build something real on a lie. And now the cracks are too wide to patch. The whispers have turned into voices. The people who once followed them blindly are seeing the patterns, noticing the inconsistencies, waking up to the truth. The fortress they built to control the narrative is crumbling under the weight of its own dishonesty. They feel it, the slow unraveling, the pull of reality catching up. Where they once dictated the rules, they are now being exposed by the very game they created. And the worst part? There's no way out. They were never invincible, just unchallenged. But now, the light is too bright. The scrutiny is too intense. The audience they manipulated is turning away, disgusted, disillusioned, unwilling to buy into the illusion any longer. And here's the truth they never wanted to face. They are no longer in control. They check their screens, search for reassurance, desperate to hold on to the crumbling facade. But what they see is emptiness, where their influence once was. The voices are louder now, calling out their deception, revealing what they worked so hard to conceal. The same people they used to fool are watching, remembering, talking. They wanted power, but power is never truly in the hands of the manipulator. It belongs to truth. And truth doesn't need permission to be revealed. The house they built is collapsing. The walls are giving way, the foundation is gone, and the rain is falling. And you're still here, still standing, still untouched. Because while they built on sand, you were always standing on solid ground. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6:7. See, there's something they didn't understand when they started this war. The law of return is undefeated. You don't get to plant seeds of destruction and expect a harvest of peace. You don't get to throw dirt on someone's name and expect yours to stay clean. They thought they were working in silence, moving in the shadows, setting things in motion that could never be traced back to them. But what they didn't realize is that God don't need fingerprints to issue judgment. Long before the truth surfaced, the evidence was already there, in the energy, in the resistance, in the strange sequence of events that felt too calculated to be coincidence. But the only thing they were ever orchestrating was their own downfall. Because while they were busy conspiring, you were enduring. While they were weaving deception, you were growing stronger. And now they're starting to feel the weight of what they created. See, the universe keeps receipts. Every lie they told, every obstacle they placed, every whispered scheme, it's all coming back. And this time, it's carrying their name. They thought they were architects, but all they built was a trap for themselves. The doors they tried to shut for you have been sealed for them instead. The influence they tried to strip away from you is slipping from their own hands. The very people they used to control are turning away, starting to see the truth. And the worst part? There's nothing they can do to stop it. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution. It's a declaration, a step toward who you were meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. They move differently now, don't they? More hesitant, more paranoid. Because somewhere, deep down, they know what they sent out has found its way home. The same schemes they set against you are now looping back around. The same delays they tried to cause for you are becoming permanent roadblocks in their own life. They used to laugh at your setbacks, but now they're watching their own empire crumble, piece by piece. And you didn't even have to fight, because the battle was never between you and them. It was between them and the law of the unseen. They thought they could bend fate, manipulate energy, pull the strings without consequence. But God's justice isn't an opinion, it's a law. And today, that law is being enforced. They stand now, face to face, with the force they thought they controlled. And it is not merciful. It does not negotiate. It does not bend to weak hands. What they sowed, they are now reaping. And you're still rising. This was never just about endurance. It was about transformation. The road you walk now is not the one you started on, because you are not who you were before. The weight that once slowed you now fuels your momentum. The lessons carved from resistance have shaped you into something untouchable. You move differently, think differently, carry yourself with an authority that cannot be feigned. What was meant to shatter you has only reinforced your foundation. The very attempts to break your spirit have revealed its unshakable depth. And now, the roles have shifted. Those who once dictated the narrative are left watching as their influence crumbles, powerless to alter the course that has already been set. They wanted to erase, to silence, to diminish, but instead, they were forced to witness something they never anticipated: Ascension. This was never a battle of equals. The moment they chose to move against you, the outcome was already written. The path ahead remains wide open, untouched by their interference, because nothing they did ever had the power to alter what was always meant to be. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118, verse 22. They thought they could shut you out, silence your voice, cast you aside like you were nothing. But what they failed to understand is that rejection is often just redirection, God's way of positioning you for something greater. They tried to block your path, but all they did was set you up for a higher level, one they can't access, one they never saw coming. See, when God has His hand on you, there is no such thing as a setback, only acceleration. Every time they threw a roadblock in your way, it forced you to think smarter, move sharper, rise faster. They didn't stall your momentum, they ignited it. What they meant for harm, God flipped it for good. The very forces that sought to suppress have become the fuel that launched you forward. They wanted to slow your progress, but all they did was refine you. They wanted to take from you, but what they touched has been restored tenfold. They wanted to erase you, but now your presence is stronger than ever. And here's what stings the most. They see it happening. They feel the shift. They feel the weight pressing down on them. The sudden silence, the realization creeping in that their plans didn't just fail, they backfired. They were hoping to watch you struggle, but instead, they're watching you flourish beyond their wildest imagination. And as you keep rising, they remain stuck, because the same limitations they tried to put on you, those chains are now wrapped around their own ankles. The same energy they used to manipulate, deceive, and suppress, it's circling back, pressing against them, suffocating, consuming. They move differently now. The confidence is gone, replaced with paranoia. The certainty they once carried is now nothing but doubt, because they know the very thing they fought against has grown into something unstoppable. And the best part? You didn't even have to fight. You just kept walking, kept pushing, kept believing. And now, as the dust settles, it's clear. They were never an obstacle. They were just a lesson. And you are living proof that no force in this world can stop what God has ordained. What they set in motion has begun to turn against them, unraveling thread by thread, dissolving into chaos they can no longer contain. The energy they manipulated, once so carefully hidden, has begun to expose them, piece by piece. They underestimated the balance of all things, believing they could disrupt without consequence, redirect without repercussion. But now, their own reality is shifting, cracking under the weight of its own distortion. Every attempt to silence has only amplified the truth, and every falsehood spun in the dark is unraveling in the light. The forces they once commanded no longer heed their call. The structures they built to conceal themselves are collapsing in real time. The deception they once wielded has become their undoing. They sought to control, to manipulate, to dictate outcomes that were never in their hands to begin with. And now they are forced to watch as the very fate they wished upon another circles back with precision. The lesson has been written in ways they cannot ignore, and the truth is inescapable. The only destruction that occurred was the one they created for themselves.